All right, so in this video I want to go over a bit of the process that we will use to create reliability in our behaviors without the use of food or in addition to the use of food to create a little bit more stability and less dependence on just the food. So the main tool that we will use for our dogs is what we would call a pressure system. So basically this allows us to use tactile communication to encourage our dog to complete the behavior and to maintain that behavior. And so pressure is something that exists in interactions for humans, dogs, whatever, all over the place. It happens naturally. And it would fall under what we would call in the behavior world as negative reinforcement, which basically means that we remove something, that's the negative, in order to encourage a behavior to happen more frequently. So in this case, it would be a release of pressure. So basically, we teach the dog that at first through the leash, we are able to apply pressure in order to ask them to do something, and the release of that pressure will occur when they follow through with the desired behavior. So pressure systems need to be taught in their own right in order for the dog to understand them. Generally, we will teach the pressure system in advance with a known behavior. So often we'll do that for a sit position, since most dogs have been taught sit naturally, regardless of how much formal training somebody has pursued. But we won't dive deeply into that. I'm just more going to show you the mechanisms of how we use pressure once a dog has a fair understanding of the pressure and release system. So we're going to return to our down position with Bubba, largely because this was a position that was somewhat difficult for him. So this has been instrumental in allowing us to encourage that behavior, especially outside of areas like this that are very low distraction and kind of sterile. So Bubba, basically what we're going to do in the beginning is just use the leash to help guide him into position. So you'll see all it takes for me is a little downward pressure on the leash to ask him for that position. I didn't have to say down. He has learned that that downward pressure on the lead is asking him to do something, and that when he follows through, that pressure immediately is alleviated. So I'm not too worried that he got back up from that one. I didn't give him a formal command. I just guided him into position. Good. Let me do it again there. The biggest caveat for the down position with this is that my body changes a lot when I'm guiding the dog into position there, and that's something we're going to need to fade as we build that goal finished product that we talked about in the last video. Where I'm standing and able to ask my dog to down without having to kneel down and either lure them for food or apply the leash pressure. So we'll do one more with no command, just to show you again. It's just light downward pressure, and then as soon as he complies, then the pressure is relieved. So you'll notice that that pressure was so light, it's not aversive at that point. So it's really just the dog has learned that they can turn that pressure off by following through with the behavior, and it's not that it's so uncomfortable that they feel a strong need to avoid it. And that gets into kind of a separate topic. But it's really just, when it's conditioned well, a method for us to communicate and guide our dogs without an overdependence on rewards. So we're going to start layering in our verbal command. Bubba, down. He doesn't lay down right away. I'll help with a little bit of the leash in hand. I'm going to kind of intentionally hit a point that I think he'll break. So right there, nope. He really likes to play, so that's where I can guide him back into position without producing the reward again in those moments that he makes a mistake. So there's basically a light consequence on the other end that discourages this breaking. So that was a tough one for him. Good. So what I'm going to do on the next runs, and even right here as he's starting to continually break, is I'm going to start to use my foot to apply that pressure, just because there's a big delay of having to use my whole body when I kneel down like that. Bubba, down. Good. So when I can use my foot, it kind of cuts time down a bit, and it also allows me to still have that finished picture of me standing. Nope. Down. Requires good aim though. Go. Good. So I'm still holding him to the same fundamentals that we talked about in the last video, where he still has to wait for that release word, but I have an alternative to reinforce the command throughout the behavior that I'm asking for without just depending solely on food rewards. So we'll do that one more time. Bubba down. If he doesn't down right away, I'll add a little bit of pressure. Good. He's kind of waiting it out there to see if I mean it. Good boy. I'll still reward in position, build a little bit of motivation back up to hold it. Good. And the main reason we do this is because we often find that food work will create a lot of enthusiasm and speed, but sometimes can have a negative impact on reliability. The dog will kind of game the system often and learn either there's a limit to when the food will be produced. So if you haven't rewarded within a certain amount of time, they may kind of give up hope, or they may not truly settle into a position. So something like a down, if they're just waiting for that food to be produced, it's not quite as stable as a position as a dog that is patiently waiting regardless of whether the food is a likely outcome. We like to pay our dogs for the work that they do in order to keep it fun and enjoyable for them, but we also want to be able to reinforce our training even when there isn't a strong reward in the picture. Go. Good boy. Yeah, you're a crazy boy. All right, we'll do one more just like that. Bubba down. And then there, basically, I asked for the down. He didn't follow through without help. So I had two options there. I either could have stepped in with food to help guide him into position, or I could use the leash to encourage him to complete the behavior. And I will kind of choose each option depending on the situation. Here, I think he's starting to lose a little bit of hope that the food will come, so he's starting to test and choose other behaviors rather than holding the down. But most of day-to-day life is going to look a lot more like this. Dogs are very perceptive. They'll know when they're in a training session versus when you're a little distracted. So even when I'm making videos, I find that the dogs tend to break position much more easily because they can perceive that I'm not focused quite as much on their behavior. So he's kind of testing whether or not getting up and checking something else more interesting out is an option. And so through pressure, I'm able to maintain this behavior even when it's not the most interesting thing happening to him, which is just kind of the reality of where your training will go over time. Go! And then I can still reward with lots of fun on the other end. Oh, are you ready? Oh, good boy! You can play a little bit, still have a fun time, but it's not always crazy, crazy fun. Oh, are you all right? All right, crazy buddy. So from here, we'll pop into a down again. Bubba, down. We reverse sneezing, are we okay? Down. Good, and this is actually an excellent drill to help build a nice state of mind. If we have dogs that have a hard time going from high arousal to calm again, I'll kind of set these situations up where we ask for both, and the dog has to learn how to handle that high arousal and then go back to maintaining their positions. Bubba, down. No, down. Good. Go. Good boy. Down. Good boy. Good. Get it. Good boy. So we'll save e-collar work for a different day, but basically the e-collar will function almost exactly the same as the prong collar. Same idea of just applying pressure to basically push the dog into behavior. I prefer that to more corrective methods, just because I find that there's a lot more understanding of the dog, a lot less stress, while still kind of maintaining those boundaries of, this is what I've asked for and this is what I need from you. And it also is your avenue to reward on the other side. But in their fundamental application, the e-collar is just a hands-free leash that allows us to create this guidance if we've done our work properly in advance to condition the dog to the tool so that they have this same understanding. So with the leash pressure, we find a lot more reliability and stability in behavior, but we like to have kind of a combination of both, so we can both motivate our dogs to enjoy the training process and even almost look forward to that application of pressure because it's a predictor of reward on the other side. And also just to be able to maintain that behavior when we maybe are doing more than one thing at a time or out and about with our dogs, so that we don't have to be constantly working for the food, especially if there are moments where food is not motivating enough for your dog to continue to put in the effort or maintain focus. So we're always kind of balancing the two in our training work, where we're building up the dog and building up their enthusiasm and drive and interest in the work for the food rewards or toy rewards or a little bit of play. But then we're also balancing that on the flip side with creating calm stability and a sense that we are going to enforce the commands that we have given from time to time as well. So, you know, as much as I would like my dog to always want to be on the same page with me and want to follow through with the cues I've given, if you were to ask the dog if they want to hold a downstay or chase a deer when both those options appear on the table, I think every dog out there will likely choose that deer if they feel that's an option. So adding this kind of stability work in order to get follow through from your dog, even in moments of conflict like that, can be vital for day-to-day scenarios that aren't always super predictable. Oh, good job, buddy.